inspired by kingdom principles that work for you.
Thank you for watching Forward, Upward, Onward Together. My name is Carey Turnquest, and I'm delighted that you've joined us in this important and relevant discussion. The coronavirus pandemic has demonstrated the Caribbean's vulnerability, as it is the most tourist-dependent region in the world. And just as it has around the world, the tourism industry in the Caribbean has been decimated by the pandemic. The Caribbean, no stranger to economic and climatic shocks, and resilient from past events, is facing a steep uphill climb as people feel more comfortable traveling. And so we speak with two young leaders and two young hoteliers from around the region. First, Mikael Doumeng hails from the US Virgin Islands. He currently serves as the resident and communications manager at his family-owned Huron Bay Resort in St. Thomas. Jamal is a sales and marketing manager from two resorts in Barbados, Bougainvillea Barbados Resort and Sugar Bay Barbados Resort. He believes that technology and appropriate application, along with strategic leveraging of data, are key to being able to compete and succeed in the industry. These two young men are proud ambassadors of their country and strong supporters of their territory's tourism. And so we welcome Mikael and Jamal. Thank you both so much for joining us at Forward, Upward, Onward Together. And so first, Mikael, tell us, how did the USVI fare during the pandemic? How good or how bad did your territory face during this very troubling time?
Yeah, well, thanks for having us. We, like every place, we were not spared. We began getting signs of coronavirus as it made its way through the states. U.S. Virgin Islands were primarily visited by people from the United States. You don't have to have a passport to come here, so it's definitely one of the selling points that leads to our market being largely taken up by Americans. So it came, through the flights, whether it was from locals coming home or tourists visiting us. We had our first closure back in, I believe, March. There was one case, and obviously when there's one case, there's always a few more cases. So my family's resort, Palonga Bay, we were actually the first business that I'm aware of, definitely the first resort to make the decision to close even before the Virgin Islands closed, after we heard that there was cases coming, and the cases kind of kept coming, and the governor made the tough decision to close down, and eventually that did, it stopped our numbers. We had a reopening that, like many places, didn't go so well. So the governor told us that if the numbers kept going up, he was going to close us, and he did. So he closed down all tourism to the Virgin Islands again in August, and just now, mid-September and October, we've been able to reopen.
Wow. It must have been quite difficult for commerce in the Virgin Islands. What was that like? When they shut down tourism, were there also lockdowns as well, or curfews?
We didn't have the Puerto Rico. I know our sister island had a larger curfew imposed. For us, mostly indoor dining was shut down for a while. Bars, still, you cannot sit at bars. But for the most part, it was just the closure of tourism and all the effects that had on closing businesses. I mean, you close weddings down, and you're not just closing down the wedding venue. You have your photographers, your cake makers, your florists, your
a whole lot of spin-off businesses associated with it.
Minister, you have your steel pan player, and then obviously with cruise ships, which was a good decision. In many ways, I think many of our Caribbean islands are lucky that we haven't had to worry about cruise ships coming in with that influence. But we've had no cruise ships, and our harbor, Charlotte Amalie Harbor, is one of the largest cruise ship docks in the Caribbean. We have upwards 40,000 people a day. So just all of those retail businesses downtown that just completely lost everyone that they basically were selling to. So it's definitely been tough, It's been tough on the people, it's been tough on the government, but we're I think Caribbeaners are very resilient, and I guess now we can add a pandemic to our resume.
Not only do we deal with hurricanes, we also have to be resilient in terms of really dealing with some very challenging pandemic, and hopefully this is the only one that we have to deal with in our lifetime. But Jamal, I want to hear from you as well. I understand that Barbados really closed hard and fast fairly early, and there's been quite a bit of success there. Tell us some of the strategies, what happened early on in the pandemic, and how have you all been facing it?
Well, yeah, the island shut down end of March, and we were closed. Like, we shut down like early, and when it happened, everything was shut. All businesses were shut. Everything except for like supermarkets, gas stations, essential services. The resorts were closed. Restaurants were closed. Bars, nightclubs, malls, everything. Like even the beaches were closed for public access. People are going to the beach, people are surfing and that sort of thing. So to tell a Barbadian to not go to the beach, things were pretty serious then. At that time too, things like masks were implemented. The supermarkets had a system where you had to go to the supermarket by day and alphabet, and based on your name. So you could not get into the supermarket on a Wednesday if that wasn't the day for your name. For a while, the entire island was under curfew. So our curfews, they kind of like extended in time. So at first they were from, I think it was like 6 o'clock. So 6 p.m. we had to be inside, and then it went to 8, then it went to 10. Then eventually they kind of like phased it out, and now things are pretty much back to, I guess, what we would say normal. And by normal, I would say bars are open. Some resorts are open. We have some tourists coming back to the island. The beaches are open again, thankfully, so you can go to the beach at any time of the day. Before we had to go to the beach between 6 in the morning and 9, between 6 and 9 in the morning. That was the only time we actually could go to the beach. Now it's pretty much, a lot of things are getting back to normal. Schools are open. Kids are going back to school.
Virtual learning or in school? Learning.
We had virtual learning in place for the third semester, which was the April to July semester. So we have virtual learning in place for most of all the schools. But it proved to be a pretty big challenge. Like kids are not accustomed to learning in that format, and a big thing for kids is the socialization that happens during school. And I think a lot of them were missing that. A lot of adults certainly, I think, took the social aspect of work for granted. Being stuck in a house for 4, 5, 6 months, or being laid off for 4, 5, 6 months, it's kind of taking a toll on the economy, on people. A lot of people are still out of work, but the things are slowly rolling, a very slow pace, but rolling back into place.
We've had to change so much of our behavior. You said that just to tell someone from the Caribbean that they can't go to the beach, it's a big deal. As they say, we have to really modify our behavior in order to make this this work for public health.
Or to tell someone from the Caribbean, oh, you guys can't line by the shop like more than 20 people, or you can't be out past 8 o'clock. That was a pretty hard pill to swallow. But I must say that the majority of Barbadians, if not all Barbadians, kind of like heeded the warnings and listened to precautions. And now, because of that, we're able to be open to an extent. So we're in a better place now. It feels almost as if like the rest of the world is kind of like shut down, and Barbados, like Barbadians and stuff, are partying because there are parties going on, there are cruises going on, bars are open again, people are in bars. Last night I drove by a bar and it was cranking like full steam at 11 o'clock, So yeah, so that's where we are now.
Well, congratulations, and I really hope that you're able to sustain it, particularly as the economy opens up. Mikael, Jamal said that generally speaking in Barbados, there was a great deal of compliance to the public health measures. We've heard so much from the mainland in the United States. And so, what was the compliance like in the U.S. Virgin Islands? Was the governor able to mandate any, all mask wearing or any other measures?
Yeah, actually, I think one of the best things that we were able to do as the Virgin Islands was really just get behind the whole process. Everything from a gas station to every food center. You got to wear a mask. You go to Department of Labor or anything, you're wearing a mask on St. Thomas, and people largely got behind it. I think we were, at least for the United States, we were definitely one of the first places to mandate a no mask, no service, protocol. There's signs up in every business. I think you even had to put the sign up. You couldn't even just enforce it. You had to have the sign up that says no mask, no service. And, you go into the gas station, your nose exposed, gas station's going to yell at you. So it's been, I think, and you never know with stuff like this, how people are going to react, but people understood what was going on. We know it's serious. And we're on an island, so we're all covered by water. So it's got to come in one way. So, I think people took it seriously, which was good. I know where I work at the hotel, where people come in there, like I've never seen people wearing masks more. We got our landscapers. They're walking by the hotel rooms. They got a mask on. I have it around my neck all day when I'm in the office or something. But when I'm outside in public, with interacting with anyone, it's on our face. So it's
and it's good to hear that you have persons that are really trying to enforce and trying to push the the mask wearing, and just so this it shows that there's just how much buy-in into it.
Absolutely. I mean, there's only so much you can do, and that's why I think when you look at the ways that the virus was able to spread in many ways, everyone's talking about inside homes. So you'll be wearing your mask all day, but someone comes to visit or something, and you're in a house with 6 people, and you're talking, and and it's always an accident. You don't intend to, but that's how it spreads. So there's a few cases like at there's an oil refinery on St. Croix. That's where one of our first outbreaks was. So that's probably just with people that know each other that are talking a little bit, having a beer at the end of the day. But for the most part, when they talk to us about strangers and droplets and getting sick from others, I think one of the biggest things that the Virgin Islands was able to do to get our numbers back down twice now was to really take it seriously. And I mean, we're not smiling anymore, but we're still saying good morning, good afternoon, good night through a mask. So it's
so important.
It's been working. So
have your borders been open throughout the pandemic? What has it been like? And
our borders were shut down twice, but we're the United States, so it's the FAA, if I'm not mistaken, that is the only one that can shut down our airports, and that's what the governor always told us. So you can mandate certain things. So what he did is he banned hotels and Airbnbs from accepting new guests, but people could still fly down. So obviously you had those people that were saying, "Hey, I'm here for work. I'm staying at this Airbnb and I'm painting." And I hope not too many people did that, because as a public, we're like I said, we took it seriously. So those people were kind of scrutinized, people that were trying to sell their boat trips and stuff. But I mean, it's tough, but we took it seriously. And if we were told to shut down, we shut down. And that's why Belonga Bay, we shut down both times. The first time was without anyone asking us, but the airport never closed. So you could have always flown in, you could have flown out. And that's why, in many ways, I think we were lucky hearing, Carey, your story about flying in the Bahamas to Miami. It'd be interesting for you to talk about that. But we never had, it never got out of control. And I think it could have been. But that was really eased by saying no one could come check into an accommodation. And that happened twice. The last time was in August for about a month and a half until mid-September.
Yeah, we had a policy in July where you were able to fly out for 72 hours and return. It has since been changed, but you'll be able to return without a PCR test. And that proved to be difficult. And so we're clawing back from that moment in July right now. And so, Jamal, what's the situation like in Barbados? Are you accepting guests? Are your borders now open since you have a pretty good handle on it?
Yeah, well, the borders are open again. Our borders weren't really fully closed. They were closed provisionally. People were still flying in and out. Barbadians were still coming home who were stuck overseas and stuff, and people who were stuck here were still able to leave. So the airport wasn't closed as such. We were just kind of closed. The resorts were closed, so much like the situation with Mikael in the USVI, where the government mandated that no one could stay. No one could stay with us because everyone was closed, so there was nothing to come to. Now, though, a lot of the resorts are slowly opening back up. The two resorts that I work for, Bougainville, Barbados, and Sugar Bay, Barbados, we're both still actually closed. We reopened on October 31st for Bougainville and November 1st for Sugar Bay. But a lot of resorts have taken the decision to delay their reopening. The reason for that is because all the protocols have changed over the past 3 to 6 months. So before places, well, our main markets are the UK, US, and Canada, and the categorization of each of those places was different at different times. So right now, the US is categorized for us as a high risk place. So is the UK, and I think Canada is right now medium risk. So
yeah, you all have a pretty sophisticated,
tier
paradigm, right? Tier,
Yeah.
high, medium, and low risk, and so
Yeah.
you're able to then develop your policies as a result. How's that worked out so far?
It seems to be working out pretty well so far. What's happened is that before the UK was in the medium risk category, so their protocols were different, but recently they changed from medium to high. So what that's meant is that they now have to, when they come, they have to have a PCR test that's no older than 3 days old. And then when they come, they then have to quarantine for 5 to 7 days and then get a test after the 5th or the 7th day. But how we do it is the second test is counted from the date of the first test. So instead of you coming here and having to spend 7 days, it's where you come here, you have to spend 2 days in quarantine, 2 to 4 days, and then you get a second PCR test. If it's negative, then you're free to go about your holiday as per usual. What that's kind of done to the markets is that, for instance, for us, the US market, they tend to come here for 4 to 5 days. So that's kind of like naturally excluded the US market from actually coming because they're going to have to spend the majority of their stay in quarantine. So they're not going to. Canadian market, they tend to come between 7 and 10 days. So some Canadians are still coming, but in a lot smaller numbers. The UK market for us tends to be between 7 and 14 days. So this right now is the market that tends to be coming more because they're able to have more time and they're able to spend the 2 to 4 days in quarantine and then get another test and then spend the rest of their holiday. But so far,
when you say quarantine, they're able to still use the facilities at the resort, or they're in the room.
That's very interesting that you actually asked that. So when I say quarantine, at first we had designated quarantine facilities. So there were only about 2 or 3 government mandated facilities and 2 or 3 other hotels. So about 6 in total that you were able to actually stay at and have an isolated 3 to 5 day stay and then move on to your proper hotel. What's happened now in past month is that all of the hotels have kind of like gone through rigorous testing to kind of be able to become these holding facilities, so that a guest, say for instance, a guest who's booked at Bougainville can come to Bougainville, quarantine for 2 days at Bougainville, and then continue their vacation at Bougainville, as opposed to having to spend additional money to go somewhere else or a facility that they wouldn't really want to, So that's working out pretty well. People are, because the demand for Barbados is still there. People still want to travel. People still want to come. Barbados is seen to have been, our Prime Minister, the Honorable Mikael, she did a really fantastic job of promoting how safe the actual island is. She was on CNN about 5 times, just talking with different people about the measures that she put in place, the successes that the government was able to achieve, and just how great the people who live here were as it related to protocols and physical distancing and that sort of thing like that. And that's kind of like set an image in most people's head that Barbados is already seen as a really attractive place to visit. But post-COVID, because we don't really have many cases of COVID, and we've dealt with it. We had about, in total, we had 222 cases of COVID. We had 7 deaths, and we had 210 people recover so far. So right now, I think we have about 5 people on the island who haven't recovered as yet. So those numbers are pretty phenomenal, and the measures
that the Prime Minister has really gotten on television to really inspire confidence in the traveling community. Prime Minister Modi has really been a great ambassador for the Caribbean.
No, for the entire Caribbean, and that's the truth. She's flown the flag for all of us, and I think when it comes to being able to be seen as a formidable government, a formidable set of countries who can come together like during the crisis, I think that she really let people understand that that's us, that's the Caribbean, that we're strong, we're Caribbean strong,
Mikael, Jamal has spoken about the demand in Barbados. And the demand is there, and there's some difficulties, particularly from the U.S. market in terms of coming back from quarantine. So in order to enter the U.S. Virgin Islands, do you need a PCR test? What are the protocols in order to enter there? And then, tell us, what is the demand looking like? You serve at a very unique position in your family's resort, and so you would know what demand is looking like coming into your territory.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of those times when being part of the United States, I guess, it's hard to say it helps us because COVID's coming from everywhere, including all 50 states. But in a time when, a lot of people from the U.S. aren't allowed to travel, it's easier for people to come to the Virgin Islands. So I believe it's something like 40% of the population of the United States has a passport, meaning 60% of the people do not have a passport. They can't go to Barbados, or much less, Europe, so they can come to Puerto Rico or the U.S. Virgin Islands. In terms of the test, our governor, originally we had like kind of a tier test as well when we started requiring tests upon arrival. And it started with states that had active cases of 10% or more, in their population. And excuse me. And that was changed now to everybody. So everybody that's arriving to the Virgin Islands as of right now until, indefinitely, they need to fill out a travel form that is online. And if they're 5 years and older, they need to get a test. And obviously that's, that's caused a lot of people to cancel. It's a tough time. So, you can't blame our government, especially this time, this day and age, for requiring everyone that comes in to have a test, whether you're a local or not. So I think when, in terms of, is it the best you can do? It's one of the best things we can do. And it gives some type of peace of mind, I think, to the population, to everybody involved, just to know that, there's things being done to best ensure people's safeties. But obviously 5 and up, I believe, is one of the youngest places. I don't think every island requires you to be 5 years to do it. Some are 15, but we're 5 and up, and that's what we've been communicating in reservations departments. Most hotels that are open, we're telling people, yep, if you got a 6-year-old kid, you gotta go get the test. But yeah, we haven't had any type of quarantines required unless you don't have a test. You come in, you present that negative test, and if it's open, you can do it. So that's, people have been asking us about, do you have to stay at the resort or anything like that? And the answer is no, you don't. So when it comes to flights, we've seen a lot of flights coming in. United, AA, JetBlue is adding flights. And the shared economy has a big part to do with that. I mean, since 2017, when we were hit with Irma and Maria, our 3 biggest hotels are still closed. Canil Bay, the famous Rockefeller Hotel on St. John, Frenchman's Reef, the Marriott here in Charlotte St. Thomas. I mean, that those hotels, those carry 3 flights worth of people a day, basically, when they come. And Sugar Bay is another one on the north side of St. Thomas. So it's interesting that the demand for air is still there. And, credit to the small hotels, but also, the introduction of shared economy. So now people going to St. John. I mean, St. John is basically an Airbnb island now, especially without Canil Bay.
Jamal, you're in sales and marketing, and you've been speaking with a lot of folks in the traveling public. What are they looking for in a vacation to Barbados or a vacation in the region in particular? Has it changed since the onset of COVID?
Has it changed? So from what I've seen, from what I've been interacting with the traveling public, and mostly the people who I mostly interact with are the product managers, the people who are selling to or organizing the product for the reservations agents to then sell to the customers. So what I'm hearing mostly from travel agents and product managers is people want safety. People want a safe holiday where they feel like they can come and kind of like forget about what's happening in the rest of the world. People want to get away from the reality of COVID or the reality of COVID in their city or their hometown. And they want to come to a beach. They want to come to somewhere that has sunshine. They want to come somewhere that has people who are friendly. They want to come to a hotel that has the right protocols in place, that they feel safe interacting with other guests and with the and also with the staff at the resorts. They want to be able to go to a restaurant or bar and not feel like they have to stay eating at home. Like a lot of people I know haven't eaten out for a long time who are like in the UK and stuff, and all they're talking about is being able to sit by a rum shop and have a rum with like a local, and sit under a coconut tree like right by the beach. So that's what people want. They want what we have. They want the safety of the Caribbean.
The region is, I think, uniquely poised to capitalize on the demand that that's present in the tourism market. Where we have a series of warm weather destinations. You're able to have indoor dining and outdoor dining. Many places in the United States and Europe won't be able to do even now or in a few weeks. And so we can really provide that. Michael, do you think that it's so encouraging, as I said, that there is still demand, and even in a very depressed economy, what more could be done to shore up demand for and to make our traveling public even more confident in traveling to the region?
I think Jamal hit it on the head when he described that feeling of what people want here, in the Caribbean. They're not stupid. They know that we are still affected, I think, by the virus, but at the same time, there's that image of the Caribbean that does feel like it's an escape, And our job, I think, as hoteliers and people in the industry of travel is to let people know that they can make that decision safely and that it's not reckless, and especially in this day and age, that's a fine line to toe. And that's what separates, safe places from those that aren't. And I think, the Caribbean, we're prepared for this because there's only so much you can do. They can only come in one way probably. But I guess you could cut that a little bit. But I would say, secondly, just the ease of travel, letting people know that there's travel assurances, whether it's hotels working with their guests to give them better refunds or cancellations. There's people that have flights that get canceled, or someone in their immediate family that wasn't traveling with them got sick. Well, we don't want you to come in and visit us if someone that just got sick. So it's important for hotels to be able to let tourists know that we understand, and this is a different time, and and we're going to have different policies that help you get here. And obviously that's why it helps that we have, at least in the Virgin Islands, we have more flights coming. So it's easier for guests. I know I just saw that new study about airplanes being fully safe. I don't know if the airplanes did that study themselves, but it's if that's true, there's a lot that we can do to ensure that they come, that they respect the rules, that they respect the islands, but they work with us to have a good time. And I think for the most part, it's about balancing. It's about balancing that, the requirements of safety and of mask wearing and, of social distancing, but still finding a way to give visitors and locals, I might add, access to the beach. You can't take our rights away from the beach. You can't, but you can limit it, so in the very
use the beach and then it not be available for local.
Like in the Virgin Islands, we banned beach parties, so that's okay. You can't. They had the National Guard there patrolling, I guess, in case you brought your speakers to the beach, but they're still allowing us to access it. They close at 4:00 on weekends, which you said 6 to 9. To me, that's prohibitive. You're hurting families, right, to go take a swim. So there's things that you can do, and there's things that you could do. And I think the goal is to, do the things that we have to do and try to let people, have a little control of their life. Because if you let Caribbeaners do it, I think we're largely, we're compliant. We want to be safe, but we also want to live because we're dependent on tourism. So it's kind of like a mixture of getting our own stuff together so that we can invite others. And at least from our island, we've gotten our stuff together. So now let's find a way to welcome visitors back that shares our product safely. And hopefully, I think we're all doing that as good as we can.
That's some really interesting insight, and that we have to make sure that our house is clean and the guests feel safe in order for us to really be able to invite the traveling public to our destinations. And more than that, we have to also make it a fun and enjoyable place for ourselves to inhabit. Jamal, if you were in Prime Minister Motley's shoes, and I know you're involved in the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association as well, what suggestions or what would you do if you were in their shoes right now? Would you do anything different?
Would I do anything different? No. I think the Prime Minister and her government have done pretty much the best by the country in terms of the schedule of shutdowns, and then the schedule as well of reopenings and stuff like that, as well as the protocol. So Prime Minister Motley, much like myself, I know the economy of Barbados is very dependent on tourism, but the country is very dependent on the health and well-being of the citizens of the country. So you have to balance the safety of the citizens, the health safety of the citizens, with the financial well-being of the citizens as well, who depend on tourism. So Prime Minister Motley knows that, we have to be safe, but we have to be sensible. So we have to open up as safely and as with a really airtight plan that encompasses like proper protocols, good procedures, quarantine facilities, and that sort of thing. And I think she's done a really good job of that. What I would do going forward, though, to kind of safeguard, I'm sure this is something that some places may be looking at or may move towards. But if I were in a position to make this happen, what I would do is I would kind of instill a lottery system to kind of come to Barbados. So what I would do is say, if I know, for instance, that we get 1 million tourists a year, and the majority of those tourists are in the months of December to April, say 3/4 of it are in December to April, I will kind of spread that million over the course of 12 months, allow only a certain amount to come in over the course of 12 months. But what I would kind of need to happen is you would have to have the relevant data, capacity data for things like restaurants, attractions, beaches, public transport, so that you'll be able to safely say, we can have this many tourists in the island along with this many locals, and still have the same amount of tourism for the course of the year. There are certain places that actually do it, like the Wave in Arizona. They have a lottery system. So that's what I would look at, and that's very data driven. But I'm sure that a lot of our countries and our Caribbean countries all kind of share the same affliction. We were all kind of scared of technology and kind of averse to data. But I think COVID has kind of shown us that we need to be more data and technology driven when it comes to our businesses and even governmental procedures and stuff like that. So that's what I would do to go forward.
COVID is the big reset, and I think that the destinations that will come out of this resilient are those that are taking stock of what they do well and where they can really develop the competitive advantage. And using data is critical to developing the right kind of strategies. Mikael and Jamal, this has been a fascinating discussion. I wish you and your territories very well, and please stay safe. It's heartening to hear that the demand is there, that tourists from around the world want to come to the region. And as I said, I wish you well and thank you so much for joining us at Forward, Upward, Onward Together. And I thank you, our viewing audience, for joining us in this very important discussion. See you next week. Don't forget to like, comment, and share us on RBNTV.
You're watching RBNTV. We are networking, promoting, we're scoring points for you, proclaiming, declaring, here to encourage you, no matter the